Hello, everybody. My name is Jordan Hybrida. I am a freshman here at Bloomsburg University, and my major is marketing. I am in the 11 a.m. time slot for Dr. Ding's International Relations class, and the topic I am going to talk about today is middle powers in a multipolar world. So first, let's get our head wrapped around what is actually middle powers. So middle powers are countries with considerable regional influence and a well-established presence in international diplomacy, but lacking the comprehensive force projection capabilities of superpowers. So the reason they get this name is because they're not that quite there to get that power of bigger power countries. So that's why they're labeled as middle powers. Um, but these nations frequently possesses high developed economies, intricate diplomatic networks, and military might adequate to affect the dynamics of security. So these three things right here is actually very good, and possibly these middle power countries can have a better economy than some of the bigger power countries. And then some of the countries to name off that are considered middle powers is South Africa, Brazil, Australia, South Korea, Canada, and Turkey. So let's get into the middle powers and the promotion of multilateralism. So the strong support of middle countries for multilateralism is one of the greatest contributions to the international system. Um, Canada, for example, has been a very long advocate of multilateralism. Canada has a very strong and still advancing development aid, their participation in human rights, and then also their strong support in the G7 and G20 is all ties into the promotion multilateralism for this country, and also their support in an environmental accord such as the Paris Climate Accord. But also Australia plays a role into this by advancing security through the AESAN regional forum, and then also the economic cooperation through their membership in the Asia Pacific economic cooperation. So all this ties into how they play big roles in the promotion of this topic. So let's get into the economic influence. So middle powers still make big decisions when it comes to playing a role in the global economy. So the countries I'm going to talk about here, I'm going to tell you about how they influence an economy, possibly in a good way or a bad way. So South Korea, for example, has one of the strongest economies in Asia, which is when I read about this, that I was like, wow, that's very interesting. I didn't think a country in Asia, I didn't think of South Korea to become the top of my head for a strong economy, but it was very interesting to learn about. Also, South Korea has a big part in international trade. Their technological development is one to think about their major role in international trade. International trade is a very good thing to build up on because it's only going to help your country be more successful and more running as a group to have international trade. But also with South Korea being a G20 member, South Korea has been instrumental in promoting international economic policy, and then South Korea's leadership in the digital economy also plays a big part in the country's economic influence. So South Korea very well in to the economic influence of middle powers. But also another country to not forget about is Turkey. Turkey plays a big part in economic influence by their participation in infrastructure projects and regional trade agreements. So South Korea, Turkey, very good middle powers in their economic influence. But also with a multipolar world for these middle power countries, there's going to be some challenges along the way. So with these middle powers navigating, they face some challenges with them not being a middle power country. Middle-sized nations find themselves in difficult situations where they have to balance the conflicting interests of more powerful nations. So that is a very, very big challenge for them. And then also middle power countries have to keep pushing themselves to keep relevancy when some new countries have more power rising and the global power systems change. But also with those challenges, there's going to be a lot of opportunity. With this, middle powers get a chance to show why they are a middle power country. So they're not gonna, back down and be like, oh, you know what? Let's go to a lower power country, that's fine with us. They actually get to build up on their foundation, and maybe from a middle power country, they go above and beyond to get more power. Um, for example, China, USA, Russia. And then also, middle powers are very well suited to assume the roles of mediators, coalition builders, and proponents of the multilateralism that are required for a multipolar world. So let's get into the conclusions of what I talked about today. The roles of middle powers are growing every day, and the importance of these countries keep growing every day. Um, there's going to be conflicts all the time for these middle power countries, and they're going to have to take it on a different way. It's just how it works. So the role of these middle powers are going to keep changing every day, minute by minute. These countries are also really important for stability and smooth operation for the international system, because if these middle powers are very dysfunctioning, it's just for the international system, it's just going to create a decline and conflict, and they don't need that. So a very well balanced is going to be very, very good for this. But also, middle-sized nations have the power to influence world events in a way that advances collaboration and sustainable growth within the framework of the multipolar international order. So, yep, that's all I had to talk about today. I appreciate everybody listening. Also, there's my works cited page for anybody that wants to possibly read up on this topic I talked about today. This article was very, very good to get information from. And I would definitely, if you want to learn more about middle powers and what they do every single day and how they consider middle power countries, I would definitely give this a read, and possibly get some information of it, and maybe you want to do a project on this. So yep, that is my topic. I appreciate everybody listening, and I hope everybody has a good day.